What's going on YouTube? This is Roger Senpai here, and today I'm going to be talking about 10 anime and comic conventions you should attend based on my own experiences. So I was thinking about doing a list of 10 cosplay conventions that are considered good, like Anime Expo, but I figured it'd be better if I did it based on my own experiences. So these are just 10 conventions that I personally been to and I can personally vouch for. For those who don't know, my name is Roger Senpai. I am a cosplayer and a writer, and I have a cosplay website where I post cosplay tips, cosplay ideas, photography stuff, and basically like all cosplay culture. RogerSenpai.com. I'll leave it in the description below. I also have a specific guide for anime conventions if you're new to it and want to know everything about it. I'll leave that in the description as well. Okay, let's start with the first one, my favorite one, Anime Central. I mean, what's there to say that hasn't been said about Anime Central? It's really an amazing convention. It's 3 days long. It's in the Chicago area, technically called Rosemont, but I consider it Chicago. It's programming from morning to all the way into the middle of the night, such as video gaming, tabletop gaming, dance parties, raves, and you have your typical anime convention stuff. But I find the best thing about Anime Central is the vibe. Like, the people there are like, they're so friendly. I don't know if it's like a Midwestern thing, but people there are so friendly. I met so many cool people at Anime Central, and I have a lot of friends from going to Anime Central. And there's a reason why that so many people go to this convention. I believe it's one of the top 10 most attended conventions in North America, so it's really a great convention. I don't know, it's like, if you look at pictures, it's kind of, you might think it's just your typical anime conventions, but when you're actually there, you'll see why it's such an amazing convention. So I highly recommend Anime Central. I guess the only gripe I can give for Anime Central is the hotels are really expensive, especially for me as a Canadian, where the US dollar is crazy expensive for me. But other than that, I highly recommend ACEN. That's for short for Anime Central. Okay, the second anime convention I recommend attending is Otakuthon in Montreal, Canada. Honestly, I think it's like the best anime convention in Canada. I've seen how it's run. I've gone so many times. It's honestly so well run. Like, just little things like putting like the map of the convention space on the back of the badge, using RFID badges to check in and check out, and there's all sorts of programming you can go to. They even have the World Cosplay event, which is really cool. It's great if you're really into competing for cosplay and stuff like that. Just stuff like that. And they surprisingly, like, because in Canada, I find it's a little harder to get big name guests and celebrities like you would in America. But for some reason, Otakuthon gets some pretty big celebrities going to there. So despite being, Montreal is pretty, I find it's kind of out of the way, and they're still able to get big name guests and celebrities even from Japan, which is crazy. And yeah, there's just a lot of things to do in Otakuthon. Even there's a cosplay cafe on the top of the floor. It's cosplay themed. It's just amazing. I think everyone should go, not only to go to Otakuthon, but also to visit Montreal, because Montreal is such a fun city to go to. Otakuthon's located right in the middle of downtown Montreal. So once you're done with the convention, or if you're taking a break during the convention, you can go walk around downtown Montreal, get some poutine, check out the area. It's a really beautiful city, so I highly recommend going to Otakuthon. Like, I'm sure you Canadians there have already been to Otakuthon or thought about it, because who doesn't want to go to Montreal? But any of you guys live in the US or live abroad, definitely put Otakuthon on your list. It usually happens it usually happens in August, usually around that time. And that's my only downside with Otakuthon, is that there are a lot of different festivals in Montreal happening in August, so that happens to drive up the hotel prices like crazy. So there's one called Oshiaga, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's like a music festival, and sometimes it happens the same weekend as Otakuthon, so the hotel prices get like crazy expensive. That's my only knockoff with Otakuthon, but other than that, highly recommend that convention. And my third convention I want to talk about is Holiday Matsuri, which I've already made a video about, so I won't go into too much detail about it. I'll leave it in the description, or you could click the link however I do it. But I'll just summarize it really quick. It's in Florida. It's like a resort convention. You got a nice pool and hot tub, and what's unique about Holiday Matsuri is that it's Christmas themed, so most people cosplay in a Christmas version of their cosplay, and it makes a really unique setting. And if you're a cosplayer that likes to take really nice photos for a nice photo shoot, you gotta go to Holiday Matsuri. You got a nice pool, you got a nice waterfall there, you got the Christmas trees, and Florida or Orlando is just a beautiful place to take photos. Yeah, and their program is really, really good too. Surprisingly, for a mid, well, I would call it mid-size, but I feel like after this year, it's been growing and growing, so maybe just can't call it mid-size anymore. But anyways, their program is really good for that type of convention. Some highlights include the Idol Fest, which is like, I'm not really into idols myself, and that show was really good. And their gaming room was pretty good for a middle-sized convention. Apparently, they're gonna move in a couple of years, so that would be sad because their location right now is really, really good. But if you're able to go next year in 2023, I highly recommend it. It happens in December, which is a really weird time to have a convention, but it's perfect because Florida's nice and warm that time. If you want to get away from the cold, Holiday Matsuri is a great getaway. You got Orlando, you got the Disney parks, you got the Universal parks, so it makes for a great vacation. Alright, my next convention is not an anime convention, and it's not in North America. It's called MCM London Comic Con. Yes, I have one here that's not in North America, and I've actually been to this one. It was my first time going this year. As you can imply by the name, it takes place in London, England, and it's not so much an anime convention, it's more like a comic convention, so it's like your trade show vibes, like big floor, you know, all these big celebrity, big name guests. And the reason why I put it there, because it's so big, it's huge, it's massive. There were so many people there, and yet the convention organizers were able to run it so smoothly. I was really impressed by that. And for me, I prefer anime conventions, I'll be honest, but sometimes, because I don't know, I find comic conventions not as interesting, but even for me, as an anime guy that loves anime conventions, I had a good time there. There was a lot of things to do at MCM. There were a lot of activities, there were a lot of shows, there was a lot to see, so I highly recommend it. The nice thing about MCM London Comic Con is it happens twice a year. So I believe there's one in May, which is the one I went to, and there's one in November. So if you happen to be in London, England, or if you're in Europe somewhere, you can try to attend one of those things. And another thing is, the price isn't that bad. Like, I bought a one-day ticket last minute on Saturday, so that's like the most expensive thing you can do. Don't try to do that. But anyways, I did it, and for me it only costed like I'd say $30 Canadian. So that's not bad considering I've been to other Comic-Con conventions and it costed like double the price. So I highly recommend MCM London Comic Con if you happen to be there. Okay, my fifth one is Anime North. Oh, I debated if I wanted to put this on my list. See, because I find with people that either really love Anime North or they really hate Anime North. Mainly because it's been similar throughout the whole year, so either people really hate it because it's the same thing every year, basically, or people love it because they know what to expect and they like that type of programming or that type of vibe. So I decided I'm going to put it in because I think it's still a good convention, especially for Canadians that live in the area. It's I'd say it's budget friendly, to be honest, because a weekend passes for the whole weekend for Anime North is $70 Canadian, which sounds expensive, but when you convert it, I did the conversion already, so it's like $50 US. So a $50 US for a weekend pass is pretty cheap compared to most conventions in the US. That's like half the price, or at least 2/3 of the price. So if you live in the Toronto area or you live somewhere in Ontario, I think it's still worth going to the Anime North as an annual thing. It's close to you, and even the hotels are kind of cheap too. They're not that expensive compared to the ones in America I've been to, which can be really expensive. And yeah, I mean, some of the same stuff happens all the time, but some things are really nice. They have the I'm probably gonna pronounce this wrong, Namanoichi. It's like a flea market where you can buy really cheap stuff because people are selling it off. So that's one thing that Anime North has that other conventions don't. And the best thing I find is the outdoor parking lot where people just hang out and congregate and socialize. You don't really get that at other conventions, I find. I mean, you do, but not as big as the one in Anime North, because you kind of have to pass by it to go from one building to the next, so like to go from the convention center to the hotels where the other programming is. So there's a unique vibe to there in Anime North. So if you're Canadian and you live in the greater Toronto area, yeah, I would definitely go to Anime North. It's not that expensive. Now, if I was in America, would you fly there or would you drive 5-6 hours to Anime North? I probably wouldn't. Funny story, I have a friend who lives in the Midwest, and she decided one year to drive to Anime North. She made the I think it was 6-7 hours to drive to Anime North, and she told me yeah, she regretted the drive. So I think if you're in the area, then it's great. If not, then I would probably save my money somewhere else. But I think Anime North's still a great convention. Alright, number 6. We're going to go all the way to the west coast of North America, and we're going to go to Sakura-Con, which is located in Seattle, Washington. I went there once. It was a nice convention. It was a typical big convention. It was well run, nicely organized. It was nice. It was right in the heart of downtown Seattle, and I like Seattle. It was a fun place to visit. One thing I really liked was they had these yellow tapes on the floor so people don't stand around, because I hate, one of my pet peeves is people that stand around the escalator, that's not move, just get out the way. So I really appreciate that they did that they told people not to stand around, especially the escalators where it's dangerous. Programming was good. It was your typical stuff. I feel like if you're in the Pacific Northwest, then Sakura-Con's a great choice because it's in the area. And when I stayed for Sakura-Con, the hotels were pretty cheap for a big city like Seattle. Now, I don't know if that's the case anymore. I wasn't able to check because they don't have their hotel listings yet, so I'm not sure if it's cheap anymore. But it was cheap for me when I went. Not only did I have the hotels, there was a couple hostels nearby if you wanted it even cheaper. So yeah, if you happen to be in the area, like Vancouver, Portland, those kind of areas, then I highly recommend Sakura-Con. Alright, for number 7, we're going to swing over to the East Coast and go to MAGFest. Yes, MAGFest is located in National Harbor, Maryland, which is kind of close to Washington, D.C. And I went, it was in February when I went, and the weather was pretty good. In February, I really had a good time there. Not only staying on the National Harbor, but also MAGFest itself, because MAGFest is great. I'm a gamer, I love gaming, and if you're a gamer, I think you absolutely need to attend MAGFest. It's truly a wonderful convention. Not only do you have gaming-related panels, which is I absolutely love gaming panels, and also they have this is probably MAGFest has probably the biggest video game room I've ever seen. It was massive. It was huge. I couldn't even. I'd have to go to that video game room so many times to see all the games that they have. It was truly an amazing thing to see. And also, if you're into video game music, MAGFest is absolutely perfect for you. I have a friend who used to go every year because he's a DJ, and he'd always try to connect with the video game and the DJ musicians. I have one personal video game composer I wanted to see. His name's David Wise. He did the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack, and he was there one year. I was so sad that I wasn't able to go that year, but you get people like that going to the conventions, and it's truly a unique experience that you don't get normally. So I highly recommend MAGFest. Okay, for number 8, I have Anime Boston, and can you guess where it is? Boston, Massachusetts. Now, I have a unique experience with Anime Boston because I sort of attended, but I actually volunteered for this convention, which is strange because I am from a different country, and me and my friends were just like, hey, why don't we volunteer for this convention in America? So we just went ahead, signed up, and they accepted us. So it was quite the unique experience. And to be honest, I had such a great time as a volunteer. Based on what I've seen behind the scenes, Anime Boston's so well run. I can't believe, I volunteered for a couple conventions. I'd have to say the one for Anime Boston's so well structured. They got their shit together. That's all I have to say. It was great. And you can tell, based on how the convention went when I went, it was really well run, and everything was great. It's your typical big convention. It has more of a trade show vibe more than a hotel con vibe. So it takes place in the Heinz Convention Center, which is massive. So really nice building. They got all sorts of programming, and they even had some anime premieres. So that just shows how big Anime Boston is. I highly recommend going. I only went to Boston once, but I really love the city. So not only is Anime Boston a good convention, but the city is really, really nice as well. Alright, for number 9, we have Youmacon, which takes place in Detroit, Michigan. Now don't freak out, it's It takes place in downtown Detroit, so when I went, it was perfectly safe, so you don't have to worry about that. But anyways, to the con, I actually really enjoy Youmacon because I've never, like, I go there for the whole weekend, and it's not too far away from me. It's a nice road trip, and I never get bored there. It's always so many things to do from the morning all the way to late at night. The best thing I find is the gaming room, which is massive. It's huge. They have these big gaming tournaments where they actually have, like the last time I went, they had like a big stage just for the fighting tournament. So they really take their gaming seriously, and they got a bunch of arcade machines, which is super awesome. And they stay open till 2 a.m. Now they used to be 24 hours, but ever since they moved to the convention center, they had to shut down early. Yeah, so it takes place in 2 buildings. So there's one called the GM Renaissance Center, which is kind of like a hybrid between corporate building with restaurants, and there's a hotel, which is goes up to at least 40 stories high. Like I remember staying really high up. And then there's the other building called Huntington Place. It used to be called the Comm Center, but now it's the Huntington Place, and it's really far away. It's like 10 minutes. It's like a 10-minute walk, or you could take the automated people mover there. And that building is just as nice too. You got the dealer's room, and you got all the panels taking place there. You got even more restaurants there. So it's a lot of fun. I find it nice. It takes place on the first week of November, which is always like daylight savings time. We switch back to the clocks, or go back 1 hour. And yeah, just a solid convention. I really enjoy it. I enjoy staying at the GM Renaissance Center. It's a decent price. The only thing I would say is checkout's a pain in the ass, because when you have that many hotel rooms trying to check out at the same time, the lineups for the elevator take a really, really long time. But other than that, it's pretty solid. Like, I had so many things to do. The video game room, I was tabletop gaming with my friends. I went to a bunch of nice panels. The rave was cool. And the restaurants were open really, really late. Now, I don't know if that's the case anymore, because of the pandemic, so things have really changed things a lot. But downtown Detroit, surprisingly, has a lot of different restaurants too that you could check out. And yeah, if you happen to be in the area, I would recommend checking out Youmacon. Like, I probably wouldn't fly over to Youmacon for a thing, but I would, if you live in the Midwest or you live somewhere in Ontario, then Youmacon's definitely a convention worth checking out. Alright, last but not least, we have YetiCon, and I'm sure if you're not from Canada, you probably never heard of this convention. How do I describe it? It's so unique. It's basically, it takes place at Blue Mountain Resort, which is a ski resort in the summer, and it's about 2.5 hours away, 2.5 hour drive from Toronto. It's a very unique convention. I think the best way to put it is it's like being at a getaway resort with anime convention vibes and anime convention activities. That's the best way to put it. So when you go to YetiCon, you're on the resort, and with your YetiCon weekend pass, you're able to use the resort amenities either for free at a certain time, or you get a discount. So when you're at the convention, you can go on the gondola, you can go on the mountain coaster, you can go in the pool all weekend. It's really great. I mean, if you're looking for your typical anime or comic convention stuff to do, probably not for you. But if you want like a getaway and hang out with a bunch of weebs, it's perfect. And like, I don't know anybody that has been to YetiCon and didn't like it. Like, everyone loves it. It's one of our country's greatest treasures for conventions, if you will. It's really amazing. Unfortunately, it's only going to be 2 days next year. I'm not sure why, but it used to be 3 days. But this is one of those cons that definitely worth driving to. I know a lot of my American friends who drive all the way up to YetiCon just to hang out at this convention. It's just a really nice experience to be at, and I know the event organizers, and they're really nice people. I highly recommend checking out YetiCon. It's really unique. Yeah, one of the best conventions. Everyone looks forward to it, and I recommend going there. Alright, and that's it for today. Have you guys attended any of these conventions, or is there any other conventions that I haven't listed that you absolutely love? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time.